Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee's online worship service. I'm Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom, and I'm honored to serve as the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee's senior minister. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all you're bringing with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We'd like to pay a special welcome to guests who are joining us today. If you're visiting for the first time or joining us from afar, why don't you say hello in the chat now and tell us where you're joining us from? I welcome everyone into our worship service by inviting you to repeat our first church mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Let's go now to our beloved sanctuary to light the chalice, which is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
Hi, my name is Marisa Riepenhoff, and I am delighted to be your worship associate today. About 7 years ago, I had a moment of deep gratitude for the family I married into. I was holding 2 curly-haired baby girls on my lap. Our twin daughters had turned 1-year-old just the day before, and at this moment, they were bobbing in time to old Irish folk songs I didn't know, but that everyone around us seemed to be able to sing by heart. Their dad, my husband, was on stage with his brothers and his cousin, playing the songs for extended family and friends. The 4 of them on stage had made time to rehearse together as much as possible in the preceding nights on the beautiful instruments they had just inherited. It seemed like 100 people were sitting there with us, not just watching the people playing, but also joining in, everyone singing. And there was great comfort and reverence intertwined in the music. We were not at a concert. We were at a funeral for their Uncle Tom, who had just died 5 days earlier at the age of 60, after living valiantly and as joyfully as possible for the past 3 years with cancer. Tom had no children of his own and had left his inheritance to his nephews and niece. Part of that inheritance was the instruments they were now playing, but another part of the inheritance, a part that wasn't written in a will, but that was maybe even more important than anything of monetary value, was the music itself, and the resilience, strength, and even the mischief embodied in traditional Irish folk songs. Tom had earned a BA in jazz guitar from the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music and devoted much of his life to being a gig musician. He prioritized celebration. The first time I met him, he kissed me on the hand and his teeth were sweating wine. I remember smiling at him in awe the last time I saw him perform at Irish Fest, when he wouldn't let cancer take away the joy he had in playing. Tom hadn't given up making music during the height of his adult life, had not surrendered to the pressures of a capitalist culture telling him to be realistic or pragmatic or settle down. Why would he surrender his passion just because death was approaching? Music and what it brought to him and to others made life worth living up until the end. There was no better way for his loved ones to commemorate him than by breathing new life into the songs that had been such an important part of Tom and the generations before him. At Tom's funeral, I was still so newly married I didn't yet feel like I was truly a part of the family, but I had a clear understanding that my daughters were. And I felt so blessed that their ancestors were creative, brave, fun, and even bawdy, that they could live through sorrow and find a bit of joy. As I heard the lyrics to Rosin the Bow and Isn't It Grand Boys, songs that are hundreds of years old and speak directly to the reality of death, being sung with laughter and tears simultaneously, I knew my daughters were part of a larger human story. And in this story, even in the worst of times, the people find strength in music and in celebration. Today, the music and celebrations that are our family inheritance keep evolving. Those babies who were dancing in my arms 7 years ago are now almost in 3rd grade, and they've been practicing lessons at home for over 2 years now on the piano Tom passed down to us. And my acceptance of my place in this family where music and celebration are central parts of life deepens. In the last 7 years, we have all faced new pressures and new sorrows. But whenever my husband and his brothers play the old songs, usually near St. Patrick's Day, or maybe around the campfire in the summers, I sing along as much and as loudly as I can, no matter what challenges life brings. Why would I surrender that?
My colleague, Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Sherry Holiday Kwan, who uses they, them pronouns, used to have a job recruiting young people to work in the Peace Corps. Reverend Kwan had served themselves in the Peace Corps and then took a position recruiting and counseling other people who also wanted to serve. When Reverend Kwan gave new people advice on how to pack for their time of service, they would tell the new recruits to make 3 piles. one pile of the things that you think you need, one pile of the things you're not sure if you need, and one pile of the things you know you don't need, but you want because they bring you joy. The Reverend Kwan would then tell the Peace Corps newbies to bring no more than half of that first pile of the things that they think they need, none of the second pile of the things they're not sure if they need, and as much as they could possibly fit of the third pile of the things they knew they didn't need, but wanted because they brought them joy. Reverend Kwan explained, we're bad at predicting our needs in a new place, but the best things that we bring to a community are the things that are beautiful and abundant and joyful in us. What matters most coming in to a community is not the amount of bread you're bringing or if you have the right utility knife. It's the beautiful, unique gifts that you alone carry, the things you love, the things that light you up, the things that make you feel alive and true and human. Those gifts are your most precious resource. And when you bring them into a community, you add your beauty to the bouquet of gathered humans. Now, packing for the Peace Corps is more serious than packing for a vacation or even for a move in some ways. By definition, most of the people packing were going to be traveling to places with fewer resources than where they lived. So the instinct was to pack based on necessity, maybe even survival. And yet, even in that situation, Reverend Kwan's advice was the same. It was prioritize packing what brings you joy. What you need to survive the most is your joy. That's what you bring to a community, even one, and maybe especially one, that is struggling and weary. It's not been an easy year, dear ones. Not an easy year, or an easy month, or an easy week. We've had the exhaustion and pandemic weariness dragging on, and each of us is carrying our own personal pains and losses. Nationally and locally, in the last couple of weeks, we've had horrific gun violence, trauma and racism and hatred and suffering rearing up. White supremacy might tell us not to feel these deaths, or maybe even our own protective mechanisms are telling us that, acting as a numb response to keep our hearts safe. But study after study have shown that after the initial shock response to trauma, which is indeed protective, we have to make time and space and give energy to feel our feelings. The capacity to feel joy and pain are connected. And if we shut down our pain response, we shut down our experience of joy too. If we cut ourselves off from the world, then we cut ourselves off from life and the joy that brings the experience of living into our very bodies. Sometimes, especially when the pain feels like a lot, getting back into feeling through laughter can be the ticket to reconnecting. When I was working in nuclear disarmament, things could get pretty painful sometimes. We were talking all the time about the literal end of the world by an all-consuming fire at human hands. It was rough. We constantly had to explain which countries had nukes and what would happen if even one of them decided to use them. To call it depressing would be an understatement. During that time, there was a short comedy video about nukes called End of the World by Fluid. And we loved it because it made us laugh about how absurd it was for people to end the world with nuclear weapons. Now, this was back in 2005, so it wasn't a super high quality video, and certainly not by today's TikTok standards, but we loved it. And we would quote it to each other whenever things got hard, or we thought the nuclear weapon states were being callous about their world-ending powers. One of us would quote France in the video and would say, "Shoot, guys, the missiles are coming, fire our stuff. But I am tired. So take the nap, then fire the missiles." Okay, these weren't great accents. But then another one of us would respond and pretend to be Britain in the video and say, "About that time, eh, chaps? Righto." And then fire the missiles. It wasn't an Oscar winner, all right, but it brought us so much laughter about a really awful subject. And that laughter, it lightened the load. It opened our hearts again to feel, to reconnect with each other, and to center joy in our work. In that way, it helped us survive. We needed that joy to survive. We needed it in order to wade into the worst of human nature. Joy is a necessity. It's a tool for survival. Celebrating our blessings as a community helps us center joy in our lives. It pushes back against horror and anxiety and narratives of scarcity by identifying and celebrating what is good in our lives and in the world. It returns our minds and our spirits to the why of living, the why of fighting for life, the why of community and family and work and commitment. We fight for life because life is beautiful. We work to nurture and sustain life because we love it. If life or the work becomes too dreary or depressing or awful, we lose our capacity to sustain it. We need joy. Novelist Barbara Kingsolver writes, "In my own worst seasons, I've come back from the colorless world of despair by forcing myself to look hard for a very long time at a single glorious thing, a flame of red geranium outside my bedroom window, and then another, my daughter in a yellow dress, and another, the perfect outline of a full dark sphere behind the crescent moon, until I learned to be in love with my life again. Like retraining the brain, I have taught myself joy over and over again. There is immense joy and beauty in this world, immense joy and beauty worthy of celebration, and we are going to celebrate it now. Bring our brains back to it now, to each other and this moment, to the gifts of joy and beauty and abundance that we bring in to this community. Today is our Flower Communion Sunday, and we celebrate what is beautiful about us as a community, the joyful gifts that we as individuals bring into it, and what brings joy in the world. In our Unitarian Universalist religious tradition, it's not just ministers and religious professionals who have the power to bless. Each one of us has the power to bless one another and bless the world. This Unitarian Universalist ritual of sharing flowers, called a flower ceremony or a flower communion, is a ritual practiced in many of our churches that traces its roots back to the Unitarian minister Norbert Čapek in Prague almost 100 years ago. Like flowers, we come into this congregation as individuals, blessing the community with our joyful gifts. Together, we are bouquets of beauty and connection, even more beautiful and powerful than we are apart. We are also changed by this community and one another's blessings. We leave this place with even more beauty, changed by what we have experienced together. So here are some flowers, some beauty that our members and friends have sent in to share with the community. May you be changed by it. May it be so. It has been a blessing to be together. May you go out from here nourished and renewed, and use that to choose to bless the world. Until we meet again, may you be held, may you be healed, may you be whole. Blessed be, and amen.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Whoa, yeah, yeah. 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 Oh,